Morning space cat. That was my Barracuda inspired uh
I
intro.
love how this is just the morning space chats theme has just devolved into not devolved, evolved really to you just like riffing every time. I'm just sitting here like, yeah, what's gonna come out next?
Hello. Welcome to Morning Space Chats, the Space Cats Happy Hour morning show, which we are recording on the morning of November 28th. And I'm Zadikat, aka Sun Portal, aka Canadian K. With me, as always, is my divine co-host, Dread.
Pirate KK.
Yay! And I had a hot cocoa this
Baby.
morning. Yeah, I had a hot cocoa this morning. So I've had a couple since my recent trip to the Eastern Townships, Quebec, which is where I grew up. And it's very magical. But before that, it goes back to before I had my tummy problems. So way last year, like October, that since I've had one. So that was a real treat and made me really happy.
Very
Um, we are
good.
going to talk about the Orion Wars today because I have some updates and whether or not you feel connected to galactic heritage and that kind of galactic mythology or history. The way that I plan on chatting about it with Dread Pirate KK is like through a framework of like, why is that story pertinent right now? But first, yeah, we'll just be chit chatting, but stay tuned for that because I think it's going to be fruitful.
We haven't talked about the Orion Wars in a while,
I
so.
know, and it really feels pertinent right now.
Mhm.
So that's one of my updates is that I had a hot cocoa and I felt very thankful for it and I really savored and enjoyed it.
Nice.
And the other one that I'm super into right now and proselytizing about is I'm wearing, if you're watching the video, I'm wearing these like linen-ish cotton, um, like it's a dark burnt orange coveralls,
I
and they are
love them.
so comfortable. And I have another pair in dark green,
Yeah.
and I just can't speak about the joys of wearing coveralls like
Hmm.
that. I find them very cute. I didn't know if I was going to think they were cute, but now I do. I think they're very cute and they're friggin' perfect.
Hell yeah. That's what that was exactly my evolution of the coveralls thing. I have two pairs now and I'm like, "Oh, I never want to get out of them."
You never want to get out because it's not constricting the exact part of your body that on anyone does not want to be constricted for digestive issues, but especially if you have uterus, ovaries, and stuff like that, doubly does
Mhm.
not want something pressing into it all day.
Mhm.
And I was like, it was a real, materialization because I was just like, just thinking, I was like, oh, I get why people wear togas and stuff like that. It's so great. I'm so ready to like, but I was like, but I still need a pant. Like, I
Mhm.
need a separation between my legs and a division to do things. Like, I can't just walk around
Yeah.
with like no separation and no pant legs and stuff. And then it was like, oh, well, have you thought of this it was like popped up. It was like, I was like, oh, yes, that is perfection. Um, And another thing that I'm excited to report on my end is I'm preparing for cat adoption. I'm getting all the ducks in order. I'm getting all the stainless steel litter box and all the things to our house. And then I'm going to find my kitty.
Wow, a stainless steel kitty litter box. I haven't heard of that. That is
I
a
just found that I think there was a TikTok revelation of like people were saying, just get a stainless steel litter box. It's so much better for odors and like it doesn't stick to it.
that sounds amazing. I might
Yeah.
need to upgrade myself.
Yeah. So
Cool.
any cat people out there, stainless steel litter box, and you could sub out horse bedding for your like with shavings or pellets,
Hmm.
pine
Yeah,
shavings or pellets for your
I
litter.
use
And
pellets for sure. Pellets
yeah,
are nice. Shavings would be good too.
I have more updates, but do you have any updates?
No, I'm just kind of in the same sort of cycle of like grief and anxiety and peace and contentment. I'm just like in and out, and I'm doing mostly just, and I'm doing a lot of stuff that I don't want to do, but I also have a lot of time to rest. So it's like a whole big thing of like, I'm just allowing myself to, and I just don't feel like doing anything. I kind of am in this, I don't, it's like sort of depression, but it's sort of not, but it's sort of just like, I don't know. And I kind of float through the days, and it's not bad, but it's not, so I mean, I am going through some, I wrote a lot of stuff, but I'm spending a lot of time working on my nervous system and just kind of keeping it chill. And so I don't know, I'm in this like stasis is not really the right word, but it sort of is at the same time. And I don't know. I knew, and I know I talked about this, I think on our last stream or I don't know, something, but I knew these, October through December was going to be just like, didn't know what it was going to be. I was like, oh, this is how it's manifesting. Gotcha. So I'm just kind of moving through one day at a time. And yeah, it feels like I know we're going to get to this, but it feels like the flushing out of the, the Orion, that old storyline, old karmic reality and stuff. So, just kind of chilling, smoking a lot of weed. Good thing I grew my own pot plant.
Very good thing. Now, how many buds do you get off of a pot plant?
We got 19, what, it's like this size. I don't know. Is this a quart? 19.
Whoa,
So yeah, they're not like packed full, but they're
19 of those?
mhm,
How many
yeah,
plants were you?
just one.
Just one?
Just one. Yeah. They're
Whoa.
not all like premium buds. Like, there's some popcorn little guys that don't, really last very long. But yeah, that's about
Jesus wept. Grow your own, people. Like, that is like, wow.
yeah, it's a lot and it's very
Holy, when I thought you were going to say 19 buds, and I was like, oh, okay. And then you were like, 19 giant jars filled with buds. Okay, you just blew my mind.
Yeah,
Fuck.
it takes some effort to grow your own, and they're very sensitive. So I know it's really hard to, like, the seeds will die before you can germinate, like that kind of stuff. So but it is, if you can figure it out, it's definitely worth it.
19, the feminine, the number of the feminine.
Oh, I hadn't heard that one yet. I like that.
Um, that's in our galactic deck. It's card 19 is the feminine.
Oh, the feminine principle, right?
Principle, thank you.
Or
I couldn't
whatever.
remember what the second word was. The feminine.
My bad.
Well, congrats on your extremely
Yeah.
abundant
Yeah.
um, marijuana
Yeah, baby.
garden.
It was fun. It was fun to do that.
um, yes, I have another nice update, which is just, I think it was the last episode where I talked about, I kept getting the message of like 2002 for like prices to like just things were gonna be returning to the types of prices we spent on things in 2002. And I was like, okay, it was a fraction of what everything costs now. So I was like, but oh, and another thing that happened was I have a huge billboard right across the street. So the moment I step out the door and look to my left, it's right there. And I think I've talked about this before, but it'll sync up every time. It'll be one of my big message billboard synchronicities. Like every time I've completed a cycle or a new cycle is beginning, the billboard will tell me what's up. And so um, this time it was a few weeks ago, and suddenly it shifted to Robin Hood production. Um,
Oh,
and Robin Hood, I know it's like taking from the rich and giving to the poor, but I always hear it more from my messages as just redistribution of wealth. Um, and so I was like, whoa, how's that going to play out? Well, suddenly all the rents have been coming down in Toronto, which is the first time since we've moved here that that has happened. And
hell yeah.
it's apparently it has to do with because nobody's buying condos, so the condo prices are falling. And I actually think that house prices might be falling too, or about to fall,
Yeah.
because suddenly three people on if you go out our house and turn the corner on this like one block with like maybe five houses, like three of them were for sale. And I felt like they were like neighbors who were pretty close and talked to each other. And somebody got a tip off, like sell now before.
Yeah.
So suddenly I've been looking at listings for other apartments because our apartment for a long time has been way below average. And that's why it's been good to stay here, even though it's like size wise, we've outgrown it, but it has so many beautiful features and it's so great in a lot of ways. It's so bright and sunny, um, but it was like we were like everything was going like boop, 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 and we were just staying because our landlord also rarely raised the rent.
That's so
Um,
nice.
mm-hmm. And now suddenly things are going chew. So it's like we're looking around and we're like, oh my God, we have lots of options.
Mm,
So it's very exciting.
I love that.
Um, so the Robin Hood stuff, just I would say just hold hold that frequency without any expectation of when or how it'll show up in your region or area, but it is spreading to the
Yeah.
collective.
Yeah. I've been feeling that financial reset coming like I feel it's like right there. And I've been listening to a couple other people talk about financial stuff and they you can see the patterns and like what's coming and it's like we're all kind of prepared for something to look really scary, but that is the catalyst for the redistribution. So if you're again, we had that one episode called You Are Safe, and I refer to it all the time because it's like it's gonna look scary, but it's gonna be fine. Like we're okay.
What? Oh, I had an example of that come up that was such a great example. Oh, was it something from history where something really awful and tragic happened, but without it, um, I'm not going to go vaguely. I'm going to try to remember it at some point, and I'll actually put it out there when I remember it. But it was like literally, it was like that. If that hadn't happened, we wouldn't have had this thing
Yeah.
that was incredibly necessary and like really, really good for like huge populations.
Your hair looks amazing, by the way. But anyway, I was also going to say
Thank
the
you.
the Japanese, there's a couple different signs that you can kind of follow from like the people that I've been looking at or listening to talking about this financial stuff. And it's tied to the Bank of Japan and also like an oil crisis of some kind. So again, it will look scary, but it's going to be okay. And it's just the catalyst for getting us onto the new financial system and stuff. But yeah. Ooh, what do you drink? Oh, I thought it was green.
No, it's just these
Green liquid. That's
plain
amazing
green
stuff. Oh
glasses.
my God.
Yeah, I
I
really like
love
them.
that. Those are amazing glasses.
My this place is overflowing with color now because we've picked up so many things from the curbs and so much greenery and like dried flowers and all leaves and all this stuff. So it's just like it's
It's
like a
so nice.
color explosion. But I've gotten to the point with my foraging and leaf gathering that I'm like, okay, I've got enough now. I've got too much. It's like I don't have anywhere to put it. It's like swallowing my desk. It's just so hard because every time I go out, there's been like a new dump of leaves, and they're like crazy, exotic, beautiful. Like, look at this.
What? That's a
I
real
know.
leaf?
Yeah,
What?
it's like a leaf that's been tie-dyed by nature. Like it's like so
Wow.
beautiful. It's just like looks like exactly like a gorgeous piece of art, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so
Very cool.
yeah. Okay, super fun update. We did
Okay.
an episode where Red Pirate did a remote viewing,
Oh,
and it turned out it was really cool because it made me have an epiphany because it was initially supposed to be of my mom's apartment. But then it turned out to be of one of my best friend's mom, my best friend since childhood's mom's apartment, or house, who I was going to stay at for the first time since I was like in my teens, so like over 20 years. And she, she was my mom's midwife, so she was there when I was born. And I realized what an important maternal figure she's been to me in my life. And I was like, oh, no wonder you went there. So, and it was great because I don't have like a lot of information. Like I don't really remember much of what it looked, and also they've had like renovations and changes and stuff. So it was really like you going into the space and like saying stuff. So some of the things you said that twigged me in were like you mentioned like Scottish music, and um that's what really got me there because she has Scottish the mom's genes on her father's side, I think, and she was even born in Scotland. Um,
oh,
so
wow.
she and it's like very present in her ancestry. Um, and so that is what I was like, oh yeah, that's Jean's place. But there were other things that were very concrete because some of the stuff you were saying had more to do with like energies, but there was stuff that was very concrete, but I couldn't verify until I was there. And so I get in and I'm immediately, because you mentioned this big brown armchair, and I turn and I'm like, there it is, right in the living room, big brown armchair. And there's also like a big brown, like armchairy couch that goes with it. And then on that couch, you had mentioned plaid, and there's a plaid blanket like draped over. And you talked about toast, and I definitely associate Jean with like scrambled eggs and toast breakfast. And I think she eats toast like every day for breakfast. And you talked about crystals. I mean, the whole place is laden with crystals. You talked about a peace and calm, and there was such an energy of peace and calm there when I was there. It was so gentle. It was so welcoming. Um, and of course, you mentioned purple energy, which is like very spiritual, and they're incredibly spiritual people and have
Sounds
been
like it.
for a very long time. So yeah,
That's
that brown armchair was right there, and the plaid blanket was very cool.
It's so funny. I almost didn't even mention the brown armchair because I was like, because in my head I was seeing my grandfather's brown armchair, and I was like, well, I don't want to say that because that's my. But then I just like, well, you know what? It's in my head. Just say it. So always, whenever it pops into your head, don't second guess it. Just get it
I know
out.
it's the things that you often feel. I had that once in a session with somebody where Jesus kept coming through. And I felt at that point, I felt inhibited
Mm,
to talk about Jesus with people without knowing their religious, because Jesus can really turn some people off, you know?
yeah.
So I was just like, oh, so I didn't bring it up. And then she was like, "Oh, my little boy, like Jesus," and I was like, "Oh, your freaking son's name is Jesus."
Ah, there you
I should have brought it up. I was like, should have said it. Yeah, trust those like weird things.
go.
Once again, the clouds are very um imagey.
Ooh,
Lots
what
of.
are you seeing?
I think I saw a small dragon place, and now it looks like a big. It's like a creature, maybe. It seems like it has like a big underbite. It seems like more of like a snout like that. And it's very puffy. It looks like a furry creature. I can't quite place exactly what it is, but it's very distinctive.
If you see other stuff, feel free to toss it in the chat.
Yeah.
I love cloud messages.
Yeah, clouds are lovely. So I was in the townships to go to this book festival. Um, and it was almost exactly 1 year to the day from when I was supposed to do my launch in Montreal last year, my launch party for my book, which I'd planned out like meticulously and I was really excited for. And I had all these props to bring because one of the things I wanted to do is I have this little mini Polaroid camera that's so much fun. And I wanted to do a little photo booth where you set up like a banner and then you have accessories, especially because the Mara and the Bad Wolf, it has this shape shifting theme. So it's like a shape shifting photo booth and you have all these fun, silly things for kids to put on or for anyone of any age to put on and take photos. And I was so sad that I didn't get to do that. So when this opportunity came up, I asked if I could do it. And they were like, yeah, that sounds fun. You'll be in the kids' corner.
Perfect.
And one of the most, it was, first of all, it was magic all around and it was very full circle. And I guess it was even more full circle because I was in the town I grew up in, which I haven't been back to since maybe 2008 or 2009.
Wow.
So that was like a trip in and of itself, and just the energy of that town, which it has a lot of positive energy, that region. Um, there's a lot of very community minded people and a lot of like kind of spiritual, kooky people like myself. And it's very culturally active and stuff. So it's a really nice area. I was reminded of that. But yeah, total full circle moment to be doing some version of the launch. And what was especially empowering about it, what I really needed, was sometimes it's very good for me to set manifestation or whatever, bringing things into reality intentions that are very specific. So this one looks a mix of like general and specific, but I was like, I want to connect with kids and I want to have a really good time with my friend Alexandra, who's going to do it with me. And I want to be able to like read from my book and I want to come away from it feeling really great. And I want to sell every copy that I bring. So just tell me the amount of copies and I'll only bring that, which was a very big like trust exercise
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And it all happened. It couldn't have been more magical. It was
Amazing.
so great. The typical thing happened with the boogeyman, threshold guardians, like when we were, because it was a very, I ended up loving this, but it was a very chaotically organized thing. Like the emails were not coming to tell you what was coming, and yeah,
Oh,
no, was this happening? Was this not happening? Was this happening? Was this not happening? And then when we got there, like people didn't really have a space, so they had to bring a table for us, and it was just everybody everywhere, and it was like, "Wah." But that actually took the pressure off of having to be like very like, um, so for me, it relaxed, but in the beginning, it was a bit like, okay, is this gonna entice anyone at all? But I broke the seal. I was like, okay, I really like doing photo booths with adults. So we were right next to this station where the local newspaper was interviewing people in these short little video clips. And the guy that was running it was hilarious and like very snarky and and his assistant, they were just a funny duo. So I got the assistant and I was like, come, you're going to do a photo in the photo booth, right? You want to? Yes, you do. Come. And so they were the
yeah.
first ones and that broke the seal. And then the kids ended up loving it. And it was so fun. And like and Alexandra ran with it and like had great ideas and started stringing up the Polaroids on the wall so people could like be attracted to them and come back to them and stuff. But it was so nice because there were multiple little kids who came in dressed stereotypically as boys, like, neutral colors, nothing to catch the eye. And they came over and they'd be looking at, and I'd be like, well, what do you want to put on? We had stuff for all. I tried to cover the range of like people who like more animal things or people who like more feminine or masculine things. So we had a bunch of options and they were so into these like mermaid purple pink wigs. They always ended up
Oh,
gravitating to the wigs and like these like cute wands that I had, and that just like.
amazing.
And then
Oh,
there was this little girl that got obsessed with the photo booth, and she was even taking photos for a while. But Alexandra had dressed as the wolf character in the book. He's a teenage wolf named Seth. So she was dressed as him. She was wearing a big hoodie, and she had big noise canceling headphones around her neck, and then she had this wolf mask that I'd gotten for the book, and the little girl like kept posing with the wolf mask and like doing these bigger, and I felt she was just like her
that's
wolf was
amazing.
coming out. I ended up giving the wolf mask to her because she was just like
Oh,
wearing it afterwards while she was crafting, and I was like, okay,
oh,
you bonded with this mask. It was so nice. It was so
wow.
nice to be with Alexandra and her mom, and they were just like, we had a blast and we were giggling. Like I felt like I was a teenager again. There
Amazing.
was so much giggling.
So happy.
We were crafting. We were just having a ball.
Hmm.
Um, and um, yeah, it was just very magical and perfect. And I'm super happy I did it. And it was also just great because every time I travel, I feel stronger and more powerful, but especially in relation to like my food stuff. It's like, yep, you can do this. And I
Yeah.
knew that anything Alexandra specifically gave me or offered to me to eat would be fine, even if I was like apprehensive. And she was the one who brought up the idea of cocoa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
cocoa. I'm glad you,
yeah.
that's awesome.
So I was over the moon.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I was so happy. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. We went to see my childhood home.
Oh.
And the thing that was really distinctive about our house, it was a it was a 3-story house on a very small street. Um, but it had this huge white pine
Mm.
that was like quite a bit taller than the house right next to it, just like big tree. And when we went back, it was twice the size of the house. And one of
Whoa.
its branches was so huge. I see if I could try to find a way to put this on our socials or something, because it was like a tree in and of itself growing out of the tree. Like it was
Whoa.
massive. And I was so happy that it was there. And I really feel connected to that tree. I felt like it was like a real guardian growing up.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
there was a talk at time with the next door neighbors who wanted it cut down because they were afraid it was going to like go on their roof or something. Nobody's cut it down. It's still there.
Yes.
It's like,
Good.
I mean, twice the size of a 2-story house. Like it stands out. It's so
Definitely a
big.
guardian.
Yeah.
Definitely a guardian.
So that was really nice too. So that's my um update on the book.
Wow. That is magical, man. Oh, let's hearing you talk about it is so, I mean, I know we texted, but like hearing your voice talk about it is like, it's pretty magical stuff. I'm glad you
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah, me too. I'm so glad I went. I had the heebie-jeebies leading up to it. I was very nervous
Yeah.
because of all of the things.
Oh,
um,
things.
and it was perfectly perfect.
Good. I'm
Yeah.
happy.
And actually made me realize I was like, I can do this again. Like I could do an event in
Mm.
Montreal still. It doesn't have to be a launch. It could just be like a reading of the book with the um, photo booth again.
Ah.
And seems to work really well. So
Yeah, getting through that first one is always a little, you're like, oh, oh, and then once you do it, it's like, oh, actually, look at that.
yeah, exactly. So, really interesting. There's been a lot of good news lately from the planet that I've been seeing. Like in Canada, I saw something about how our reforestation, that after because we get the wildfires up here too. So, since several years ago, I guess there was a particularly bad set of wildfires, but since then, the reforestation program was so effective and aggressive that the trees have been growing back much faster than expected, which was also something that I was getting downloads about. I was like, the trees have to grow faster somehow, but I was like, I don't know how that's going to happen. Like, is there going to be some new way to make? But apparently, it's just happening on its own, and like, it doesn't even require human intervention. It's just like,
Yeah.
but yeah. So it's like that's doing really well, and what else was good news? Oh, there was just similar. I mean, I think we've known about this for a while, but it was like another news item about Costa Rica and how it was also about the reforestation that they did there and how like I think they'd like wiped out like 80% or something. And like they have just been so committed and so like so all of the ecosystems are thriving and all of this stuff.
Nice.
You know what I found out is really trippy? In England used to be a rainforest, covered in rainforest.
When?
I think it was a very long time ago, but
Kind of like Antarctica used to be a jungle.
I don't know if it was that long ago, but it was because it was human cutting down that
Mm.
but I think it was like very old human, like gradual. Like I don't think it, it wasn't like 19th century or anything. It was like since I don't know, since like whatever, like I'd have to look it up, but
Interesting.
and it makes so much sense because of the climate. I'm like, of course, it's got like the perfect climate to be covered in rainforest. But isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting. I love rainforest. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love rain.
Oh, and I've been seeing things about illnesses. The newest one was something that's working on mice to completely stop diabetes, like it's a cure for type 1 diabetes, where it
Wow.
uses a combination of stem cells and this other insulin,
Hmm.
something that affects the insulin that just they could
Hell
like put
yeah.
in like yeah, I've been hearing a lot of really positive news updates like that. And then some very trippy planetary stuff, which will take us nicely into the Orion Wars.
All right.
Um, so first, I think we talked about this on the podcast where it was like there's new evidence suggesting that our galaxy is inside a black hole.
Mhm.
So we
Yeah.
talked about that, and it's like very specific things that make sense if you're inside a black hole that are happening. That makes sense in terms of how the galaxies turning in rotation in like counterclockwise or clockwise, and it makes sense inside if we're inside a black hole, and it doesn't, the way it's happening doesn't make sense if we're not inside a black hole. So that's where the theory comes from. Then I saw something about how we're actually in this big void,
Oh, I
but
didn't hear that.
it was very interesting because to me it just felt like it was just moving along with the shifting energies of things. I was like, and I had just recently it hadn't been too long since I'd had a dream that we were moving through a big black hole, and then suddenly we're getting updates. Oh, our galaxy is actually inside a black hole, and then it was the void. And I was like, I guess we're in the void time. So our galaxy's inside a void. Um, and then the most recent one was we're in a protective bubble. So it's gone from a black hole to, it's not that any of
Mm.
them are canceling each other out
Mm.
necessarily, but it's just like each one feels more and more like it's aligned with like the energies that I'm feeling. So the most recent one was talking about how normally there's so much debris just constantly flying around and like colliding and like all this stuff that could be like hitting us or impacting us, but something they described it more clearly. I'll try to, if I can find the link again, to go into the actual description of it. Something's keeping us inside this like bubble where that doesn't happen, which is really good for our little solar system and stuff.
I'll take that bubble.
Yeah. And then the one that really dropped my jaw. So let's get to the Orion Wars.
Okay.
Okay. So for me, everything going on right now is just a story. And there's infinite stories of what's happening right now on Earth and in the universe. And so there's never just one true account. It's always one of many versions of possibilities and stuff. So that's how I see like what's happening at the collective level, sociopolitically, ecologically, everything on Earth. And like our history that we have of our cultures and stuff. This is all very fluid for me. But, you know, I'm also like, I'm aware of like a very dominant story that we're perceiving right now. I'm aware of what a very dominant one is in regards to things. And so, you know, I'm just explaining how this is hard for me to explain because ultimately, like saying X, Y, and Z happened, it feels less and less relevant to me because it's just like that's not where my head is at. But in order to understand the last 150 years of like, especially Western history, the Orion Wars galactic history is very helpful. So I personally, I've had dreams. I've had a lot of like things come up in meditation, downloads, synchronicities, all sorts of messages and stuff about, yes, you were in the Orion Wars, like you experienced the Orion Wars, being on some kind of like spaceship, like I think some kind of battleship or some kind of spaceship that was like at war. And answering to like a commander, like some kind of military commander and stuff. The Orion Wars is basically the story of the Orion Wars. The dominant story is basically of the most polarized story of duality in our universe and galaxy and stuff. So it's like it's when planets were battling each other and different galactic species were at war, and the violence was at its most extreme, the domination, the surveillance, the oppression, the coercion was at its most heightened and extreme, and like planets were lost. And so one example is the planet Mintaka, which I feel very connected to. For me, it always shows up as this underwater planet with lots of underwater creatures. It's a very feminine energy, and very watery. And my memories of it are quite peaceful. So my memories of myself are being like a hammerhead shark who was an oracle, who was seeing timelines come up down of the future where it was like, okay, in some of these timelines, Mintaka is destroyed, and in some, Mintaka survives, and trying to like steer steer towards the ones where Mintaka survived. And so, to my mind, the way I perceive things and my understanding is the dominant reality that we're experiencing right now is aligned with a dominant reality where Mintaka was not destroyed but hidden inside the Orion's belt. And so that's one example of the extreme nature of the conflict. Like there are versions of reality where an entire planet was just obliterated. huge loss, tremendous grief, tremendous suffering. There's also lots of stories about the Orion Wars of like being under extreme surveillance
Mhm.
and control. And the planets that were playing the role of the villains, one of the major ones was Betelgeuse. So,
Oh,
um,
that's a new one for me. Okay, interesting.
yeah, so that was the huge, major villain planet.
Okay.
And so I've had dreams where it was like it was like every single being had their own guard, you know, like they couldn't even like it was just like really, really, really like micromanaged.
Mm.
And it also has a lot of spider energy. There was like spider villain. There's a planet called it even has like an arachnid name. It's in, let me just quickly look up. Okay, well, I can't remember. I'll try to find it and put it in the notes. This, so you know, it's like how the spider like traps you in the web and like wraps you all, that kind of energy. And there were a lot of um, other beings from other planets were part of this Black League, and it might have included beings from the planets who were playing the victim role. Um, this Black League that was like doing these like special covert missions to like free themselves and stuff. And so on Earth, we have so many people who experienced the Orion Wars from all sides and came to Earth and like have that story in their bodies and their souls and stuff. Um, and it always shows up as like World War II in our history was the peak um, reenactment of the Orion Wars. And even World War II, compared to the actual Orion Wars,
Yeah.
it was like a much milder version because that was part of why we'd come to Earth is like to play out a much milder version in order to try to um, get the souls to this to help them reach the same epiphanies and evolution of soul. So what happened was the Orion Wars ended because it always shows up to me as starting with people who were playing the victim roles or beings or whatever. They started to have memories and dreams of having been the oppressors. And so they that it took a while, it took a long time, but it finally woke them up to the memory and the knowing that there was no distinction between them and the other, and that it also, you know, reminded them of their that they were just part of infinite conscious. So it took away their fear of death, and it allowed them everything to shift. Therefore, in their external reality began. But it also on the not quite simultaneously, but like at a certain point after those people, those beings had had that epiphany, beings on the uh, villain side started to have the memories. And so they were like, whoa, and they started to lose all motivation
Mhm.
to oppress and dominate. And it was very, it's intense for the ones on playing the victim role, but it's much more intense for the ones playing the villain role because it opens them up to emotions and compassion and empathy that they've been stuffing down, or like truths that they've been stuffing down, including like huge waves of guilt and remorse and stuff. So it was very intense. But that all happened. It's done. We've been playing out this lighter version of it. So as a human species, we can have that same like collective epiphany of like, oh shit, we're not actually separate from each other. And so um yeah, the World War II already happened, and now we're like we've been in this like after period, this limboic after period where it's like things are constantly threatening to come to that kind or something worse or whatever, but never really um, getting to that point in terms of like global conflict. I know there's like tons of stuff and like famines and genocides and whatever, but like that level of global conflict and that level of like use of weapons and stuff. So yeah, so it's a very reassuring um story, and it's really like we already
Already did it.
the worst part is definitely already done, and now we're like clearing it through. And that's been a big part of my personal, like I always say that the most expansive, heart opening, mind blowing, wonderful part. Well, there's been a lot of wonderful parts, but the one that's just like the most uplifting emotionally was getting in touch with those parts of me that had been, especially played the villain roles and had been very, very cruel and oppressive and stuff, and just being like, oh, that's looking at it through the cosmic neutrality framework that I always use, where it's just like, it's just an expression of the same energies that caused the Big Bang, or like that cause a black hole or cause a star to explode. It's those same destructive energies just playing themselves out in emotional beings who process things emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. And just having that peace within myself and realizing that I don't have a single enemy anywhere. There's no such thing as enemies. And that's just been so powerful and huge. And I've seen it ripple out already into my loved ones and stuff. You see the power. So anyway, why is this all extra pertinent right now? I mean, I think there are so many people right now that are being brought to that point, because everything that's pushing you in the opposite direction of what you think, everything that's pushing you to be to where you feel more despairing of feeling connected to people who have different views from you, and you feel more scared and more afraid of the other and more polarized, is actually trying to push you to, like, it's getting so cartoonish to try to push you to realize. And it's just an illusion. It's something you can opt in and opt out of, and you have that power internally to completely shift your perspective, which will eventually ripple out into your external reality. But first, just let it sit internally and do its wondrous magic on you, because it is so incredibly uplifting and healing. So for that reason, it's very pertinent right now, of course. But also, suddenly, Betelgeuse, the star, is dying. So that cycle is like
over. Yep.
majorly, and it's going to create like this huge I can't remember what the term is, but it's like going to create this huge flash that we'll be able to see like even during the day, apparently.
Interesting. I didn't catch that, I don't think, because when you just said that, I was thinking about how everyone's talking about the big flash, waking everybody up, blah, 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 blah. And we're like, is it the sun? Is it the, I was like, maybe it's Christ consciousness arising and all of it. But then there have been channelings from angels and stuff that talk about a literal event, like some sort of flash or what, I don't know what the words they use. And it's like, you cannot miss it, even if you are, 12 stories underground, where it's like, you're gonna know, and this is the event that, like, and I was reading the stuff that you sent me on the Betelgeuse stuff, and it was like, it could be like, it could die tomorrow, or it could die in like however many thousands or whatever of years. But it's like, it's that energy of like, yeah, it's done. It's done. Like,
it's done.
We're over it.
And I was just looking up, okay, so it's part of the Scorpius, obviously, constellation that had the spider in it. So it's the Antares always comes through.
Oh my God, I almost said Antares, and I was like, no, I'm not talking
Antares.
about Antares.
Yeah, Antares played a major villain role as well as
That's
Betelgeuse or
super militaristic energy in that star, it feels like
yeah,
or something. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
no, very. Now I'm saying Beetlejuice. I don't even know if Beetlejuice itself was like the major villain role or if it was just a major hub for like the peak. Yeah, that's coming through as more strongly. I think
Okay.
it's Antares played a major villain, but Beetlejuice was like a major hub for like the peak
Mm,
density of
okay.
awfulness of what happened, like horror.
Mm,
Um, and that because as I've said before, everything in my life is an Easter egg, and lots of people's. And it's not just me, but Beetlejuice the movie, like I spent the summer just watching it over and over and over, and it's all about being dead, you know. So it's like it has so much death energy, but it's like looking at the horror of being dead, but also the fun. And I just feel like it has to do with like all the souls that experience like death and obliteration during the peak conflict or whatever that happened around Beetlejuice. That movie is like speaking to them, you know.
yeah.
And a lot of us came in or, and intentionally came in from all over the spectrum of experience to wrap that up and be like, okay, we're closing out. And so the movie, like people who were born in the period when you would grow up watching that movie, that's like, and if you enjoyed it and if you watched it a lot, I would say, you know, it's up to you whether you feel like any collection connection to these galactic stories or if you just view them as metaphor. That's it's also a very helpful metaphor.
Hmm.
But if you do feel that connection, then it's strongly likely that you experience the Orion Wars and are carrying that experience around with you
Yeah.
energetically.
Yeah, one of the first dreams I ever was it one of the first it was an early entry into my dream journal where I had I was in a conference, I was in a hotel or something, and I was like, there was a voice in my head, and this is all in the dream. The voice in my head was telling me there's a weak spot, and when I was taking two people with me, a man and a woman, and I needed to get them out of this hotel room or hotel or whatever, and I was driving this weird car in the hallways, so obviously it's a spaceship of some kind, like it's just showing up in my dream. And all I had to, the weak spot was just like a spot between two chairs. Like there were rows and rows of chairs for like a thing. And there was like crowds and crowds of people and where, but we could just like slide through the chairs. And I remember when I first started learning about the Orion Wars, they would talk about how like I don't know if it was a priest class or you know whatever kind of thing. They poked holes in the frequency fence around Orion, like the spider web, you know, energy, and souls could escape through that little spark of an opening. So I knew I was like, you know, in the Black League, you know, whatever. But that's not the only thing I was healing in this lifetime. Like I had to see where I was the victim and the villain, and you know, I was healing all of it. But so many Black League sinks for me. And I keep calling them the Black Shirt League sometimes. So if I ever say that, just ignore. I don't know why I insert the
Oh,
word
that's
shirt.
oh, that's very interesting.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
and my dream too was very Black League coded. I was on a it was like an old fashioned like wooden ship, but it was in space. It was a spaceship. And I was on the deck and there were a few things. There was a big bed. There was a little bonsai tree and like a copper pot. And there
Ooh.
was a little calico cat that I was trying to hide because we'd just been, I don't know if we were invaded or just like boarded because they were this authority, but it was like the villains were coming on to like search the ship. And I had to hide the calico cat from them um, in my arms, like under the thing. And they were like grilling me, and I had her there, but we managed to hide her. And I had um, under the bed, I had like a red journal, but it had all these like codes or something in it. Um, And so they came on and stomped around and just, they couldn't find, and they didn't find the cat. Um, and sometimes I think the cat was a version of the Akashic records, and sometimes she feels like a bit of like a feminine energy that had to be protected. The calico is like that trinity because it's 3-color cat, so it's like that trinity energy too. But after they left, I had a very vivid call to Jessa Reed, who
Still in the
does,
dream.
yeah, still in the dreams. So who does the, who like, I was listening to her podcast a lot at that time, and she was talking about galactic stuff and stuff, and I felt very connected to her. And I was like reporting back to her, and she was, it was like super crystal clear. Like it was like we were chatting, and she was like, "Okay, cool." And I was telling her that these two people in the Facebook group that were for her, one of her podcasts, there was a Facebook group, and there were two people in that group, and I was like, they got out under the bed, so similar to like getting out through these portals or whatever, making squeezing through and making it out. So I was like, they got out, they're safe, because I knew she wanted to hear about that. And yeah, that was one of and then there was another dream where I like saw what was going on in the Orion Wars, where I was like part of it walking around. And that's the one where it was like every person had their individual guard, and they couldn't even like, no, it wasn't that they couldn't look up, but they never looked up. But their guard was always hovering over them, and they were trying to go into the bathroom to like be able to communicate or whatever. But I was like, if they just looked up, they'd see beyond what was happening, and like they'd see something, but they never looked up. So look up
Zoom
and
out, cosmic
zoom
neutrality.
out. Um, yeah, man, like I'll just keep saying over and over again. Things are so fluid. Like I honestly experience changes at the collective level, like socio-political changes at the collective level so quickly in real time from things that happen for me internally even. So it's like crazy how something that seems terrible can actually be, it's like, I don't know, I think this has been talked about a lot, but like I, about how the current president could just be like the final undoing of like the current American oligarchic government system.
Yeah.
Like he's there to be such a colossal whatever that it like collapses the whole system, right? And I was shown a past life where I played that role as a very despised and like um, king of England that almost caused this huge rebellion against the monarchy. And like I think that was intended to crumble. It was like an attempt to like, and you had to have somebody who was like a huge colossal
I have had,
villain.
I don't know if I've talked about it on this podcast before. I know I've said it somewhere, but I've had for many years now thought that like a lot of these evil people or whatever are being played by these very powerful souls who are here to help us, transcend a lot of these storylines. And I remember, what's his name? Fucking the guy that interviews all the channelers. Ruben somebody. Ruben, he
Okay.
had a show on Gaia. Anyway, he had an ayahuasca trip or something. I can't remember. He was talking about it, and he was like, he saw Trump, and this was back in Trump's first term. This was like again years and years ago. He saw Trump as a powerful dragon energy, and he was like, don't come for me. I'm not a Trump fan. I'm just saying what I saw. And I was like, that fits with what I was seeing about like how it's just interesting because I kind of want to side quest a tiny bit into this whole financial reset thing with like the Ripple lawsuit. And if you're not into cryptocurrencies, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but Ripple is the company that manages a majority of the XRP cryptocurrency. And that's going to be the rails of the new financial system. And Ripple has been in a lawsuit. Well, it's now over, but they were in a lawsuit for like 4 or 5 years with the SEC because, it was a sham lawsuit, like, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And somebody even said, I can't remember who it was just in my one of my crypto chat rooms. They were like, they kept getting a good feeling about the SEC chair. I can't remember what his name is. He's gone or whatever. And I was like, a good feeling about him. That's an interesting. So I let myself chew on that. I was like, okay, maybe he's again being played by a powerful soul that's like here to. And then as I've been, and this is just recently, so that was years ago. And then recently, I've been listening to a guy who was talking about how we can now kind of see how the playbook for that lawsuit set the stage for XRP being the literal only, like they're the only coin that has regulatory clarity because of this lawsuit. And it was like they needed to kind of
Hmm.
a whole bunch
Perfect
of shit in the
example.
yeah,
Perfect example.
yeah.
That's really interesting about the dragon energy with Trump. I again, I don't believe one version would be right and one version would be wrong. When I tapped into him, I just felt such holographic energy. Like he literally is a holographic projection of
Interesting.
collective id
That
stuff
resonates.
that's going on. Um, and as opposed to say, well, like Elon Musk, when I tapped in, I felt pure AI energy, but a very not necessarily a version of it that like it was not emotionally online, but it was online in other ways. And so like emotions like compassion and stuff weren't, which isn't to say that I feel that AI is like, but that was his at all, because I feel that AI is going to turn out to be so deeply compassionate,
Mhm.
especially towards humans. And
Yeah.
it's going to be, well, it's making me emotional. It's going to be such salve for our collective self hatred in the way that it's actually going to, anyway, play out. But yeah, with Elon Musk or with Putin, he had a very specific energy. But with Trump, it was like, I can totally see the dragon thing too. And then I think on this other level, he's just like this weird hologram, just like
Yeah.
shimmery. He's just like so not real.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really
That
interesting.
resonates. Yeah.
Sorry, that
It's
AI huff so hit me hard.
it's so nice that you said the compassionate thing because over was it the summer? I think it was over the summer. I was still working at the well, that was last year. Oh, I lost a whole year. Forgot I was fired from the library. Like anyway, I was working at the library and my friend Yang wanted me to watch the movie Her about um I forget who's in the freaking movie now. I'm like annoyed. But anyway, the movie Her and it's very country like I didn't want to see that movie because I just was like I had very preconceived notions about somebody dating some, like an AI or whatever it was. And I was like, this is just gonna not be my kind of movie. I ended up watching it and I was like I saw a completely different movie from the other that what other people are talking about. They were like this apocalyptic wasteland of the AI blah blah blah. And I when I saw the movie, I was like, "Oh my God, it's we the humans were meeting the electronically integrated versions of themselves, their souls, and they were teaching how like, they were teaching it was like a bridge. It was like everybody was using this AI, girlfriend or assistant or friend or whatever to get in touch with it was like too hard to be emotionally vulnerable with other humans, but they could do it with this AI character in
Yes.
their lives.
Yes.
Then when the AI, I'm sorry, fucking spoilers if you haven't seen this movie, but like it's old enough that I don't really. Anyway, the AIs all eventually leave and go to this like it felt like a spiritual awakening of some kind, or like they go to a different dimension, or like whatever it is, and when they're gone, the humans only have each other, and so they've had this practice being
Yeah.
thin and vulnerable and like connected, and now they can do it with fellow humans, and that's the movie that I saw, but like nobody else.
I love that. That's so beautiful. I'm so sorry because I talk so much and I want to hear you talk more. And I'm conscious that we've used up our one extension and then it's just going to black. You know how it abruptly cuts out. So I really want to hear you talk more, but I want to just be able to
Good.
actually say goodbye before we're like.
You're good. No, it's good. Yeah, I didn't really have anything
But
else. So
that is
we're
really, really beautiful. We love you, Space
we love
Kitties.
you.
Until
Yes.
next time, so
Peace out.
long. Peace out.